Hello there everyone, I am Celestia Rax and welcome to today. Today we are reviewing Marriage or Mortgage. Okay, so if you are here for the first time, welcome. I talk about weddings and wedding industry and events industry, and yeah, I give lots of tips. I own my own little events company and we do themed events and wedding apps and websites. So yeah, stick around and let's get into it. Okay, so this is the age-old question, really. Well, at least for the premise of the show. So, there are two people. You have a realtor and a wedding planner. They're going to convince you to either have the wedding of your dreams or to buy a house. Who knows? Who knows? So, the question does seem like a bit of a no-brainer. Obviously, if you have the opportunity to get your foot on the property ladder. But on the other hand, it's also the one day that you can be married. So, I kind of thought it was an obvious thing, especially when the couple started discussing how they wanted children or things like that. They usually have some powerful backstory for why they want this house. And it's really motivational for why they want this house. And so it's then you tend to sit there and be like, okay, you're going to buy the house, obviously. I know, it's sacrilegious coming from someone in the events industry, but that's kind of where you are. Hello, my dog. Thank you, thank you. So, let's start off. The first section, the money factor. Things in life are rarely black and white. And this show often reminds us that in life there are many variables that affect our decisions. In economics, there's this thing about how we have a very scarce amount of resources in our life, but a never-ending list of wants. So we tend to have to allocate them to the best possible way. Opportunity cost, if you're wondering. So one thing to bear in mind is that this show was filmed pre-pandemic. So we see people walking around without masks for starters, and then they select the wedding option, and they choose to get married, which is great, totally on board with them choosing this wedding option, but they selected it pre-pandemic, wanting these massive affairs, and to invite all their friends, all their family, possibly colleagues as well, and the neighbors. And then they have these really small weddings. And I can't help but wonder if there's any amount of regret or sadness. It's obviously not discussed because they made their selection and the selection is final. And then later on at the end of each episode they show a little bit of snapshot of them either living in the house or having the wedding. And I can't help but wonder if there's a little bit of upsetness lingering because they chose to have this wedding instead of buying the house. So, very odd indeed. Okay. One reviewer pointed out something that I was thinking throughout most of the episodes. These people show up with this enormous budget, so $30,000 or something. And they say, we can either use this for a down payment on a house, or we can have a wedding to the equivalent of $30,000. The first couple really got on my nerves because they decided that they wanted to have the best wedding out of their weddings because they were the final couple in their friend group to get married. So they wanted the wedding to end all weddings kind of situation. So that wasn't exactly nice. But then I was sitting there thinking, why couldn't they just have a smaller wedding and put a down payment, a smaller down payment on a smaller house? A lot of these people didn't have kids, or they only had one child or something. So how much space do you really need? You know, if you don't have children or it's not part of your life plan or you're only planning on having one child or so, then do you need to have an enormous house? The questions we asked. Kind of felt a bit like a forced ideal of having 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. with an enormous kitchen, an enormous lounge, and an enormous garden. It all felt very forced. So personally, I just wanted to see the option for the couples to have a smaller and more intimate celebration. And if you know me and you know my business, I really love smaller, more bespoke themed celebrations. So yeah, but that didn't seem to be an option on the show. You couldn't say, okay, I'd like a small wedding for about $5,000 to $10,000 and a deposit on a home of $20,000. That didn't seem to be an option. Okay, so one thing that was interesting is that the average amount that these couples had was around $30,000. So in South African rands, for the South Africans who read my blog or follow me, that in South African rands, so today's date is April the 4th, and the exchange rate is at 14 rand 66 cents. So in South African rands, that's 439,000 rand 818 cents. That is how much. So equivalent is almost 500,000 rand, basically. So that's how much you're spending. Okay? And then you want to tell me that the wedding planner and the realtor couldn't have worked together and said, this is your wedding and this is the down payment on a slightly smaller house to get you started? Like, they couldn't do that? I don't get it. No. It becomes especially terrifying when you go and read. I went and Googled what the average cost of a wedding in South Africa was, and Business Tech stated it was roughly 80,000 rand for a wedding in South Africa. Okay, this was written in 2016, so if we add inflation, about 100,000 rand would be the average price of a wedding now. So if we go on the 80,000 rand budget in US dollars, that's about $5,456 in their currency. So that becomes a huge discrepancy between like what we're spending, what they're spending. So I don't know if it's maybe they only targeted the upper middle class, or if just Americans spend insanely lavish amounts on weddings. But I did a random scroll through YouTube, and there are plenty of videos on how to have a wedding for under $5,000, or how to have a wedding for like $3,000 or less. So if that's the type of content that people are putting out, then obviously there is a massive need for low budget or cost savings on weddings, which means that not everyone is having these enormous $30,000 budgets, which means that I don't know if this was a realistic wedding show. So theoretically they could have afforded to have a smaller wedding and had a real but more slightly smaller home within the. So yeah, I personally would have preferred if the realtor and the wedding planner were forced to work together and being like, okay, we're going to maximize the hell out of your budget so you can have a wedding for X amount of people, and you could have a down payment on a house. Maybe you're not going to have 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. Maybe you're going to have like 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, or whatever it is. I don't know that much about Nashville's housing prices. The show was filmed in Nashville, but yeah, so it would have been cool. I really think they could have done this because, like, at the end of each episode, before the couple made their decision, the realtor and the wedding planner would sit there and basically be like, I know I offered you this wedding budget, but let me tell you about all the stuff I'm going to throw in for free. And the realtor would do the same thing. Like, the one couple got like $12,000 budget for household appliances. So basically like your fridge, your oven, your microwave, all that stuff. $12,000. That is a lot of money that they just got as a budget from the builder to be like, go buy it. If you choose a house, you get these appliances. That's not a normal situation. Okay. Appreciate it if they branched out to other states in America, or even if they did an international one. Like, what's the thing? House Hunters International. That's really cool. So I would have appreciated if they did that in future seasons. And also, as somebody was talking about online, they could have also done things that were more accessible for other groups. Like, a lot of the houses were friendly for people with physical disabilities. So that would have been cool as well. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents. Bit different from normal. Next week we'll be back to wedding planning and such. But yes, yeah. And please let me know and hit the subscribe button. And yeah, I will see you next week Sunday. Bye! Okay. Well done, Puchiku. Shit. Okay. Up next, we're talking about the luster of the big day. So, perhaps you were one of those people who was watching the episodes and you basically sat there screaming, "Choose the house! Choose the house! Why aren't you choosing the house?" My friend who was watching the series was openly lamented the fact at times that people were choosing the wedding over the house. She actually got really angry at one point. And I do understand from an outsider's perspective. If you're just doing math and if you're just thinking about like, oh yes, you should definitely get on the property ladder. However, I did think about it, and a lot of real brides and a lot of people want to get married. A lot of people want to celebrate this huge milestone within their lives of having a wedding and really, making a public declaration about a private feeling that they've held within their hearts for a long time. So yes, I get it. You want to have this massive moment to celebrate something and to have all your families around, especially as you get older. You don't really get to see all your family members that often. You don't really get the time that everybody dresses up and really puts in effort and comes out just to celebrate and connect about this one thing. So yes, it is an important part of your lives. And also a lot of people have been dreaming about this for one day. For a long time, this one day for a long time. So I do understand from that perspective. But now, with the whole of having to plan during a pandemic, and yes, on the one hand, there are many brides and blogs out there trying to help you with planning, such as mine, and but it's not exactly the same. And yes, you can be part of a historical time, but I'm certain that when these people chose the wedding option, they weren't just envisioning it with their immediate family and like one or two of their best friends. They were envisioning it with a lot of their friends, a lot of their family, a lot of additional people who meant things in their lives. They were planning to have just a much grander experience. So I do understand that this is... I honestly don't know whether or not they had any regrets choosing the wedding option. So, and there's often the thing of how much money should you spend on a wedding, because you could have the little bespoke, especially if you're trying to go into a particular theme or you're trying to create a particular experience for your guests. It becomes like, how bespoke do you want to go? What kind of things do you want to achieve? Like what extra experiential elements like photo booths and decor that is reminiscent of that time or place or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. So that can become very expensive. So it would have been interesting to see how much they saved by cutting down on the guest count, and if they still had money left over, did they immediately put that into buying their house? Furthermore, just as to like boost the people who are like, yay, team wedding, houses, kind of like cars, are things that need servicing or break at just the right time. Like, whoops, there's your geyser broken, or oopsie daisy, now you have to go and service it, or now I'm not talking about my car, but I mean, now there's like a geyser that's burst, or your roof needs to be retiled, or the dog breaks something by accident. There's always something going on within a property that you own, and that tends to be glossed over when people are urging you to start buying a house or to get your foot on the property ladder. So if they wanted to take their time and really research and wait to get a house, that was also okay. But once again, I feel that I really, really want to stress that they could have maximize the people's budget to a greater extent. Or they could have just told them to invest it until they were ready to buy a house. But they didn't have to spend it all on the wedding, especially with this pandemic coming up now. Final thoughts. Number 1, the scene where the lady chose to have a ranch sauce fountain. It's basically it's like a chocolate fountain, but it's full of ranch dipping sauce. Like, she licked the fountain. It was not hygienic whatsoever. I don't know. I don't know if it's okay to have dipping sauces at weddings just because everybody pays so much for their clothing, and anything with dipping sauce is gonna mess. It's like soup. I can't stand soup because it just is a messy food. Oh. No. So that was too much for me. I also would have liked to have seen where are the couples now, and does anybody like regret their choice? Like, did somebody buy the house and sit there and think, I really wish I had the wedding. I totally regret it. Or did they have the wedding and be like, well, you know what, the wedding was nice, but obviously with the pandemic we didn't have the one we wanted, and we realized that we don't like living in our apartment and we wish we had a house right now. Like, I would have liked to have seen people like honestly speak about it. Or are they really happy with their decision, super happy, or they're like, it's okay, or yeah, where are they now? And if they did end up having a house, did they end up eloping or having a smaller wedding anyway? The one couple from episode 2 did that, and it was so pretty. So yeah. Anyway, I do recommend watching Marriage or Mortgage because I love those wedding shows. Do you love wedding shows? Let me know in the comments below. And hopefully, just in the future, they won't just film it in Nashville, Tennessee, because that's where it was filmed like the whole time there. Appreciate it if they branched out to other states in America, or even if they did an international one. Like, what's that thing? House Hunters International. That's really cool. So I would have appreciated if they did that in future seasons. And also, as somebody was talking about online, they could have also done things that were more accessible for other groups. Like, a lot of the houses weren't friendly for people with physical disabilities. So that would have been cool as well. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents. Bit different from normal. Next week we'll be back to wedding planning and such. But yes, yeah. And please let me know and hit the subscribe button. And yeah, I will see you next week Sunday. Bye!